All right, I think we are about ready to begin. I want to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone on the East Coast. We have another great turnout for our latest webinar in the NIMBL lecture series, S/4HANA Cloud and Component Manufacturing. I'm Jake Eisbart, part of the NIMBL marketing team. A little bit about us. We are SAP technologists at NIMBL and SAP ecosystem thought leaders. Our consulting business, which is 50% of our work, delivers SAP projects, both technical and functional, while our Denver-based SAP managed services, the other 50%, supports both Fortune 1000 and mid-market across 20-plus SAP skill sets. Here's a list of some of the services that we offer. Obviously, today we will be talking about S/4HANA Cloud. And here are some of the customers that we work with. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We want to be able to answer as many questions as possible. So if you take a look at the chat box in the lower left-hand corner, please feel free to ask Michael any questions, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. In addition, everybody will be receiving a fully edited copy of the presentation. So if you have to step away for a second or you miss a slide, no worries, you will get the full copy sent to you. A little bit about our speaker today, Michael Jolton. Michael is Vice President of Service Delivery for NIMBL and leader of NIMBL's SAP S/4HANA Cloud practice. Michael's assisted dozens of clients developing and implementing ERP strategies and is now applying those experiences to helping clients evaluate and implement S/4HANA Cloud. And before we get to the presentation, we want to get a lay of the land, so we just have a couple poll questions to ask regarding S/4HANA Cloud. So the first question is, what is your current S/4HANA Cloud schedule? Is that 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, 18 to 24, or you are not currently looking to implement? And we'll give people a little bit of time to fill that out. See some varied responses. A couple more seconds on that. All right, and on to the next poll question. What services in S/4HANA Cloud interest you the most? Obviously, this being a component manufacturing webinar, we expect a lot of manufacturing answers, but we'd also like some more detail on what other services interest you. Finance, professional services, two-tier, and we'll give people a little bit of time. All right, so at this point, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Michael Jolton. Michael, go ahead and take it away.
All righty, thank you, Jake. Real quick, a little bit about NIMBL and S/4HANA Cloud specifically. We started our S/4HANA Cloud practice about 2 years ago as an SAP Lighthouse partner, meaning we implemented S/4HANA Cloud for ourselves. So we are live on our own instance, implemented by our own consultants. We are currently working on 3 other implementations as we speak, about to start a 4th and continuing to move. The market is definitely beginning to adopt this solution at an increasing rate. As Jake mentioned on an earlier slide, one thing that I think makes NIMBL unique in implementation of S/4HANA Cloud is our holistic capabilities. From a two-tier standpoint, we have well over 3 S/4HANA on-premise implementations under our belt. We have an integration development practice and a Fiori extension development practice. So we can bring all the skills to the table when needed. We are part of the SAP Activate feedback team. So we work with SAP on their methodology for implementing S/4HANA Cloud, and we wrote the SAP Press book on S/4HANA Cloud as well. So just a little bit about us and why we feel that we're qualified to speak to you today. Our agenda going forward here today, we're going to talk a little bit about ERP and component manufacturing, just a little bit of a background there to set the table, and then we'll focus on really going through. I want to show you the application rather than just tell you about it. So I've got a lot of screenshots from actual systems, and I'll show you about plant maintenance, and we'll go through plant maintenance analytics and how you can improve your uptime there. We'll look at an overall plant management overview, visibility capability. I want to spend a little time talking to you about demand-driven supply management, and this is really where your ERP can begin to distance you from some of your competition. Next, we'll talk about driving quality throughout the business using embedded analytics. We'll continue our embedded analytics discussion, talking about the insights you can gain with profitability reporting that is live data in the system, again, all embedded. And then we'll close out talking a little bit about two-tier ERP solutions and other SAP point solutions that drive additional benefits and refer to S/4HANA Cloud as really as the digital core. So talking a little bit about ERP and component manufacturing. The question about ERP, is it a necessary evil or can it be a competitive differentiator? The business, for those of you in it, it's improve or go extinct like the dodo bird. Back in the 80s, we saw the emergence of quality programs like Six Sigma and the Baldrige quality programs. We saw process improvement programs with just-in-time manufacturing and Kanban and Lean and so forth. One of the issues with those programs is they weren't really integrated into the ERP tool. So you had to develop side programs or manual programs which reduced your overall benefit in that, one, you weren't fully automated in those programs, or two, to be automated, you had to increase your cost base from an overhead perspective by adding to your IT infrastructure in order to automate those programs. At the same time as we're looking at, wow, I need my ERP to do more for me, along comes cloud software now in the last 10 years, and what's happened now is adoption is greatly growing. So sources here are Saugatuck and IDC, and these are a year or two old here, but we're seeing greater than 75% of new IT expenditures are for cloud systems. CIOs are beginning to embrace, or not beginning, but are on a common level embracing a cloud-first strategy. And new IT decisions are increasingly involving line of business executives, not just the IT folks. So things are changing from that perspective. Now, a lot of that was based on, hey, I want to get rid of my IT infrastructure. I don't want these, excessive and costly IT departments, and they can't keep up with the speed of the business. What's happened now with cloud technology, more so, is the adoption is growing because of innovation and agility, not just getting off of the infrastructure. So enter SAP S/4HANA Cloud. And the solution, again, around 2 years old, based on the S/4HANA code base, or it shares the same S/4HANA code base. And there's a lot going on this slide that I've got in front of you, but I'm going to kind of work from the inside out here. So if we look at the digital core and S/4HANA, and specifically S/4HANA Cloud, we've got this little infinity diagram of business transactions and intelligent insights. And what does that mean? Really, one of the huge innovations with S/4HANA is the fact that it runs on the SAP in-memory columnar HANA database. And, that all sounds interesting to someone in the IT world, maybe not so much on the business world. What does it really mean? What it really means is I've got a database today in my current system, my old ECC system or my other legacy ERP. I've got a database that handles my business transactions. And then at night, I do an upload to a data warehouse or a data store or what have you. And then the next day, I'm able to pull down my intelligent insights with my business warehouse type reporting. What S4HANA gives you is one database to do both. So I can conduct my business transactions in the HANA database and at the same time be pulling out analytics from that database, and then use those analytics to go right back to my transactions and take action on the insights that I've gained. So that's really, that's something that we're going to see throughout the presentation today, and really a key of what I wanted to show you on this slide. I'm going to address the rest of this slide, the things outside the digital core, some of the SAP solutions and such, later on in our discussion. One thing I want to do also in setting the table for our discussion is to clarify the distinction on the different flavors of SAP S4HANA. There is the S4HANA on-premise edition, full ERP scope, and it's a capital investment to buy the software. It goes on your hardware, or if you have a hosting vendor, you can at least put your ERP in a hosted situation, getting rid of some of that infrastructure. Kind of moving over, SAP is offering SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud, which is again very similar to on-premise. It's just hosted within the HANA Enterprise Cloud or the SAP hosting service. And you're able to have subscription for the hosting, but the software is still traditional license and maintenance, so it's still a capital investment there. As we move to the right, now we get to the SAP S4HANA Cloud editions, and we've got a single tenant edition and a multi-tenant edition. Single tenant is basically the full scope of S4HANA, and it's your tenant, so you can configure it any way you would like to configure it. You pay by the drink or by the month, if you will, so it is an operating expense versus capital, and SAP handles the infrastructure. You cannot make code changes within the solution. You can't customize it that way. But you can configure it, you can fully configure it, and you have the full ERP scope. As you move all the way to the right, to the multi-tenant edition, this is the edition we're talking about today. It is a pre-configured version of S4HANA, so the scope is limited. The business models for S4HANA Cloud multi-tenant today are based on component manufacturing, professional services, and what SAP calls administrative ERP, which is basically if you've got everything else covered except financials, some light procurement and light sales orders, you would handle that through your administrative ERP or S4HANA Cloud multi-tenant. So those are the three business models it's pre-configured for. And as I talked about with single tenant, you cannot modify the code, but it is also more restrictive than single tenant in that you do need to accept the pre-configuration, and then you can tailor that pre-configuration to your needs. All right, so moving forward, we'll go ahead and we'll talk about plant maintenance. Now, as I said, we're talking about the multi-tenant edition. So the first screen that we see here is the SAP Launchpad, and we've got it open to a maintenance planning group of apps. Each of these squares or tiles represents an app. As you can see here, we've got a lot of different things going on with respect to maintenance planning and maintenance strategies, and I'm going to dig into that in a little bit. The key point or takeaway here for you is maintenance management covers everything from the strategic preventative maintenance to emergency. Gosh, I walked past the pump and it's smoking, and we need to get that fixed type maintenance. So it's all there. The idea, obviously, the more preventative you can do and the more prescriptive you can be, the less emergency you should have to do, the less downtime for your plant, the greater productivity. So this next slide, create maintenance plan. One thing I want to say about this, just because of the nature of putting this on a PowerPoint presentation and then presenting it to you in our webinar format, it's definitely smaller than what you would see on your own screen as you're working, and I do apologize for some of the eye chart, the small fonts that we're going to see today. But the idea is to I'll kind of talk you through these. We're not going to go through every field, but I'll talk about the purpose of it. So here we've got we're within our change maintenance plan app. So basically, we've created a maintenance plan here for a mechanical inspection for a pump. Okay, and as we look into this, what I see on my next slide here is if I have all of that master data loaded for that pump, the description, the category, and who manufactures it, model, if I keep all of that, right, that will stay with this. So setting up that master data, obviously very key and becomes critical in your reporting, so you can find out where am I doing maintenance more often than not, and what's breaking down. I'll talk about that in a short bit. This next view, again, the same create maintenance plan. Here I'm just looking at the functional location of the equipment, and the point here being, again, as you set up your master data, you're setting up your layout of where your equipment is. You can then do your maintenance plan scheduling based on where things are, minimize that travel time so you don't have someone working in the southeast corner of the plant and then send them over to the northwest corner for the next maintenance project. So again, really the idea here is you've got that capability to optimize how you're doing your scheduled maintenance. Next here is if I drill into my maintenance plan, I am now going to have maintenance tasks. As you can see, I've got highlighted here is check the pump, then I've got to check the bearings, check the coupling, check the shaft. All of these, and again, this is your plan. You're going to set this up for your equipment, but the idea is don't just leave it at the level of go do maintenance on the pump. Maybe the more detail you can give your maintenance engineers, right? You create a checklist. You're following a checklist manifesto style approach, so that you don't go to change the oil on the car, you forget to look at the tire pressure, and then you end up with a flat tire or bad gas mileage down the road, that sort of thing. So again, you've got that ability to do that. Also on this view, you'll see you've got the ability to set standards for the work time and the duration to complete each of these tasks. Again, that's giving you the ability down the road to have all that reporting, so you can start to see where maybe I can do something faster, or where should I be looking to cut time out of the maintenance process. Next slide here is I've gone into my maintenance packages, looking at, again, checking the pump, the bearings, the coupling, and so forth. And what you see here is you've got the ability to set your schedule on a periodic basis. So maybe I don't need to check the shaft every month. I only need to check that once a year. I've got the ability to have that flexibility to set up a good and tailored maintenance plan. So now I want to get to some of those metrics I was talking about. what we see here is the maintenance planning overview page within S/4HANA Cloud. Each of these white rectangles represents what SAP calls a card. It's a little more detail than a tile that would be on the launch pad. The idea is you're getting a quick snapshot view of everything going on. So I can see here if I'm missing any components that I need for maintenance orders. If I've got purchase orders for maintenance orders that haven't been approved. So, looking at that upfront end of the workflow to get rid of those bottlenecks before they become a problem. I can see how many orders I've got outstanding and to be completed, and what orders need to be planned, and so forth. So, and again, on the far right, I've got my overdue orders. So the maintenance manager can come in at any point throughout the day and really see how the functioning of maintenance planning or maintenance operations are going. Next thing I wanted to show you is the user interface. This friendly user interface really empowers your entire company to identify maintenance needs. So if they're walking past, maybe an inventory guy is walking past a piece of equipment and hears it rumbling, that person can go in and very easily request maintenance to be done. The next thing I want to show you, though, so what I see here is the request maintenance screen if I'm on my computer. At the same time, I can have this same app enabled on my phone. What you see here, I've got images from my iPhone where you've got on the far left, first I can request maintenance or monitor maintenance. I'll go back to monitor in a second, but to request maintenance, I would touch that, and then I'm going to get this request maintenance screen, and you see it's the same fields. I've got my technical object, what type of notification am I creating, and a description, and I can put in text, and then I can submit it from here. Now, what I want to show you is if I tap on that technical object screen to choose the equipment that I'm referencing, I'm going to get this third screen here from the left, which is going to give me a list of all those technical objects. And as you can see, I've got some fairly technical descriptions there that the average bear may not know. So I also have the ability, if I go back, I've got that find using in blue. There's a little hyperlink on that second screenshot there. And that allows me, that pops up if I go all the way over to the screen on the right, to pop up a barcode reader. So if I have barcoded my equipment, I just scan that from my phone, scan it, it's going to pull in all the object information, and then I can quite easily then tap on the type to pull down, hey, I'm creating a malfunction report, and I can put in my description, hey, the pump is making a strange noise, and get that submitted. So I'm really empowering and enabling everyone in the company to be a part of keeping the plant up and running. In addition to enabling everyone, I am also helping drive accountability through being able to go back and view my maintenance requests. So again, I've got my maintenance request on the far left, but I can also go see all the different notifications out there on it, look at the one that I created, and then move over to the right here, and I can see where mine stands. So when it was reported and has it been addressed. So I can make sure that my voice is being heard and that we're holding everyone in the company accountable for keeping the plant up and running. So that pretty much covers what I was going to introduce to you today about plant maintenance. Again, I'm kind of giving you just a little top-up taste, if you will, of the overall solution, and hopefully you're getting a view of some of the capabilities and some of the art of the possible. From a plant management standpoint, I wanted to open up and show you the plant management overview. So again, this is another overview dashboard. I've got a quick actionable health check here on how I'm doing. I've got high-level KPIs that really would indicate if I've got a sickness deeper down within the organization. So I can look at my my stock value, and if it's if I don't like where it is, maybe I've got an overabundance of block stock, or I've got too much in quality inspection. That could trigger one type of analysis. Maybe my value is too high and I don't have the movement I want to see through the plant. Again, if I've got special stock types, customer consignment stock, and so forth, I can monitor that. As I move to the right, my inspection lots with defects. Now I'm starting to see how are we doing on a quality level throughout the entire quality process. I'll talk more about quality in a minute, but from A to Z, am I seeing more defects than I should be seeing? Same thing with defective materials. And on the far right, I've got delivery performance. So overall, are we getting orders out the door on time, right? And again, the key to this is that it's actionable. So if I clicked on that delivery performance card, that's going to take me to a drill down on overall delivery performance. What I see with this combination screen here is I've got these mini charts up on top, which I again begin to tell a full story. So I can see, what's been delivered as requested in percentage, what's by year, what's been, so year over year. If I go to the next chart, I look at, or by month, I see from last month I was at 14% to this month 40%. So maybe for the year I'm at 28.8 on the far left, but and I might be pretty upset with that, and I probably should be. But on the right, I see, hey, at least I'm trending in the right direction. Then from there, it's not just a matter of am I late or not, it's what's my average delay. So I can start to analyze how I'm doing there and look at where my delays are happening. From there, I've got an overview chart down below, which just gives me a bigger graph to look at in terms of what's incoming and what's been delivered as requested. And obviously that discrepancy is where we have variance and issue. And I see from July to August, I've definitely improved. As I go down to the next grouping in this screen, I see I've got my specific sales orders that are outstanding, and I can start to drill into those. So everywhere where it's blue, I can hyperlink in, so I can look at the materials or material groups, where I'm shipping out of, the ship to parties, to see if this is customer specific and so forth. So the idea that insight to action, and again, this is an overall something that a general manager or a plant manager might look at to help assess the overall health of the business on a day-to-day basis, or business operations on a day-to-day basis. I want to talk now a little bit about demand-driven supply. The key here, necessity being the mother of invention. Of course, as I talked about earlier, there's been a lot of process improvement methodologies over the years, and yet we still see challenges with greater demand volatility, shorter product life cycles, constrained and even outsourced supply. And as it's outsourced, that creates a whole different set of sourcing issues and timelines, volatility, uncertainty, and complexity and ambiguity with the entire planning process, information and material distortion throughout that process, and lower working capital. And these are the business challenges that you all are facing every day in the manufacturing world. To overcome these challenges, in 2017, in the August version, the 1708 version, SAP introduced demand-driven MRP or demand-driven replenishment apps. And these apps were the result of a combined effort from SAP and the Demand-Driven Institute, and the planning methodology to be realized within the demand-driven apps were introduced by Carol Tack and Chad Smith in their book, Demand-Driven Material Requirements Planning. So, if you're interested in learning more about demand-driven MRP, you could go to that book. You go to the Demand-Driven Institute website as well. What SAP has done with this now is our lead times are no longer dependent on the entire product structure lead time. Okay, so much like other demand-driven methodologies, it's based on a pull. So we're starting with customer demand or qualified sales orders. We're not looking at the traditional MRP forecasts or long-range plans where we're pushing everything through. So it is a demand pull methodology. But where it really differs, excuse me, is as we go to the buffer levels, the inventory buffer levels throughout the different middle portions of the manufacturing process. So we're looking at all the work in process levels, excuse me, and working with those buffers to absorb that volatility within the demand. And how that shows up then is if I'm looking at a particular material here, what I see is I've got three different buffer levels. I've got my green buffer level up on top. And that basically is from the bottom of that green to the top is from the reorder point, so where I need to make sure I'm ordering new stock, up to the maximum stock level. So I definitely want to be in that space as much as possible. When I get into the yellow space, now I'm going from my safety stock level on the bottom of the yellow to the reorder point up on the top of the yellow, right, which is where we want to get back in the green. And then, of course, if I hit the red, that means I've hit my safety stock, and the very bottom would be my minimum safety stock level. And maybe that's 0, maybe that's some unit count of where you need it higher. Now, while the graph is pretty and functional in the ways I said, getting there, creating your buffer profiles, your appropriate lead times, and adjusting for all that variability, that's where the art within the system is. I don't have time to go into those details. We do have one of the NIMBL consultants, Rahul Agarwal, will be Rahul Agarwal will be speaking on demand-driven replenishment at a couple of the upcoming SAP Insider conferences. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. We'll be sure to send you that information. All right, so let me move on to quality management as we zip through the system here. Again, starting with our Launchpad, I just want to show, again, a simple, intuitive way into the apps. And what we'll see, we won't be talking about all of the places to check quality today. I'm going to focus mostly on manufacturing. I'll talk a little bit about procurement. But the key here is I've got the ability to track quality throughout the entire process, from when raw materials come in the door all the way to when finished product goes out the door to customers. And I can track that within my ERP in S/4HANA Cloud. And then I also will have the analytics to see how I'm doing, to see where my quality breakdowns are, to analyze that, get proactive, and fix those problems to minimize waste. Again, just a point here, I've got my bring your own device capabilities with the Fiori user interface for S/4HANA Cloud. So if I'm out on the floor and I need to record defects, I can do them on a phone or a mobile device, as well as going to a workstation. But it frees up, it takes off that tether to a workstation when you've got this mobile capability. As I showed the other overview dashboards, I want to start by showing the quality engineer overview. So again, I'm looking at my inspection lots. I'm seeing what my defective, I'm looking at my defective codes. So what kind of defects am I seeing most often? I'm seeing my inspection lots that are outstanding of a usage decision, meaning how come we haven't gotten to this yet to get these reviewed? And again, looking at the defects within inspection lots, the top defective materials, and so forth. So I've got that overall dashboard, so I can start to really focus where I need to. I don't want to focus on how's my quality measurement going on something that doesn't have quality issues. This kind of dashboard allows me to do exception-based management. Again, I'm going to apologize for the terribly small font on this slide. The idea here is I've got my inspection lot analytics where I'm looking at material by plant, and if I wanted you to see the whole graph, so I really did shrink the size down on this. But what we see here is by material within the plant, where am I having rejection rates? And so again, driving me to my focus. I've got the ability within these reports to adjust my view settings to add in all sorts of different information if I want to look by calendar year, quarter, month, or so on. And I could look at different information about the lot and the manufacturer and so forth. You can really customize these pre-built, pre-configured reports to see what you want to see specific to your business. As I click into that report, then I've got the ability to go deeper in and really, rather than looking at just a graphic, I can interrogate the data to derive intelligent insights about the defects. So what inspection lot, who was the supplier, and so forth. Why was it rejected, et cetera. So I've got that ability to get down to that level of detail, from exception to detail on what's going on in that exception within a click. The reason I've got this chart here is to talk about analysis paths and how you can create a graphical story as you're looking at your data. On the left, you see two very, very small charts, right? One is, the top one is approved and rejected lots, and that's that bar chart. And so I can see by material what's being approved and what's being rejected. And so maybe I've got a material issue. But then I've gone and added in a rejection rate by calendar year and week, which is this line chart that you see. And now I can start to look for, hey, do I have a seasonality issue? Do I see defect rates go up in the summer, or you know, in the winter when it's ski season here in Colorado and everybody's mind is on the slopes, that sort of thing. I can add all sorts of different charts. I can save this analysis path so that I can always come back to it to kind of get a full view, all within my application. And again, just like I did with showed with that other graph in terms of driving down to detail, just by clicking in, I've got the ability to get detail through any of these graphs. I mentioned I would talk about quality and procurement as well. And I've got the procurement dashboard up front. And as you can see, I've circled the supplier performance monitoring card. Let me go ahead and drill into that one really quick. And what we see here is different suppliers down on the bottom. And I've got 6 different measures for each supplier. And I'm looking at overall operational score, price variance, time variance, and then I've got this quality variance score. So again, what's happening is products coming in the door, I'm reserving a certain amount to go test. We test that amount, and I see if I've got any, if any of that product needs to be rejected, then the system is automatically capturing that and providing a quality variance score for my vendors. So again, I'm able to check it when it comes in, and then again, I've also got my quality checks before product goes out the door, and even quality recording for complaints from customers after it's out the door and on the customer's site. So soup to nuts quality throughout the system. All right, I'm going to touch on profitability reporting with embedded analytics just to show, one, a different way to use embedded analytics within the system, and two, to give some of the financial folks listening a flavor of how this helps from the financial side of running a component manufacturing business. So as I open up, I've got a profit and loss actuals app within the system, and that brings up this multidimensional reporting tool. This would be something that you used to have you would have to export your data in a batch overnight process, and then the next day you could come in and take a look at it. All of this data that you're looking at here, I know this is a snapshot, but if this were a live demo, that's live data within your system. So I see here I've got my measures in my column. So I've just got my amount in the transaction currency or the country currency, global currency, and then I've got quantity on the right. You'll see I'm going to manipulate those columns in a minute. And then I've got, just for my rows right now, I just have the GL account. I can click and drag in from my dimensions on the far left column there. I can click and drag in and very easily add product sold group to my rows. So now as you see, I'm looking at the GL account by product sold group, so mountain bikes, racing bikes, and so on, to break that down. I might not really care about the GL accounts. I might be more caring about what's my revenue by the actual products sold. So I drag out my GL information back over to the left, and then I just drag in my product sold, and now you can see I've got the product sold, and then by product sold group, and then I've got my revenue there. I can also add columns to the chart as well. So as you can see here in this screen, I've dragged fiscal year quarter into my columns under the measures, and I can see now I've got my amount in transaction currency by 2018 quarter 1, 2018 quarter 2, and quarter 3. The other thing you can see here is I went ahead and hid my other currency columns because I didn't really care. I'm doing everything in dollars. So now I just got my transaction currency, and I've got my quantities as well, again, by quarter. I can go ahead, now that I've got it built the way I want it built, I can go ahead and hide my dimensions from the screen. So I've got a full screen view and can do a little more analysis on that data. From there, again, I can click on Jump To, and that's going to give me the opportunity to go into detailed analysis or actually taking action on some of the cost allocations, et cetera. Insight to action, all from within the same application. I'm not in a business data warehouse application that then I've got a swivel chair over. Of course, finance guys and gals love to export to Excel, so you still have that capability if you need it for additional analysis. Last but not least within here, why settle for numbers alone? I can click and show it in a combo graph and data, or I can also just use graphics if I want to do that. So again, all that multidimensional insight within my ERP tool. I'm running short on time, so I'm going to keep trucking through here and talk a little bit about two-tier ERP and the overall systems landscape. SAP has looked at things and they've said, look, we know that bigger companies are going to need the more complex, the more functionally rich S/4HANA, whether that be on-premise or in a private cloud situation. However, there's going to be multiple different scenarios where you've got a subsidiary or a different business unit that's really operating in a semi-autonomous or somewhere on a autonomy scale, but operating autonomously from a system standpoint. And that's where SAP has said, all right, there needs to be a two-tier solution here. In this particular model, we've got S/4HANA Cloud running the local subsidiary with its own local production and local inventory and local finance. The production and inventory are integrating with the corporate mothership and their S/4HANA instance, and then finance is to get roll-up consolidation reporting across the entire company, is integrating into central finance, and it can also integrate for overall corporate business planning into SAP Business Objects. This is just one model of many, and we've also got success factors on here as well. My point about the one model of many, and I won't be able to drive through this whole slide, but as Jake said, we'll send this out to y'all. If we look at, for example, procure to pay, SAP has already envisioned and pre-configured scenarios for these two-tier business cases. So under procurement, for example, maybe I've got a situation where my subsidiary is pretty autonomous and they're going to procure on their own directly. However, we want that visibility back to headquarters. They want to see what's being procured, how it's being procured, and so on. That integration, that business scenario is pre-configured. Same thing, the other side of the coin, maybe headquarters is the internal supplier to the subsidiary, and there's a central contract used for materials. So maybe you've got multiple subsidiaries that are in the same or similar business. You're using similar materials. This would be a situation where that might apply. Again, these are pre-built, pre-configured scenarios that SAP has already anticipated to create this efficient two-tier ERP landscape. As I talked about, we're within the digital core where we're talking about S/4HANA Cloud, and there's an entire SAP ecosystem where we've got these built-in pre-configured integrations for things like SAP Concur for travel and expense management, Hybris for your CRM, success factors, and so on. Also, some of these other tools out here, we see SAP Leonardo, where we can start to build in external applications to handle things like Internet of Things and putting sensors on equipment to then integrate that back into to create maintenance orders and so forth, and have the machines do all that thinking for us. So anyway, that's a little bit on the whole ecosystem. In summary, what I've given you is a very small window view to a huge system and how that system can really, it's not just that it's in the cloud and can save you IT costs. It can change your business, right, and accelerate new business. All that functionality, there's a ton we didn't cover. And one of the key things we didn't cover today was technical innovations like the Copilot and SAP's growing use of machine learning within the application. As you can see from the graph on the right, we've got machine learning and natural language interaction being integrated into the solution at an exponential pace. The natural language interaction, that's the ability for Copilot to begin being your digital assistant, your Siri or Alexa or whoever, where you can tell the system, I need to purchase new PCs for my department, and it will give you a list of PCs that you could purchase, and you could pull that out. It will create the, select which one you want. It'll create the purchase request for you, and so forth. You're talking to your computer. You're not mousing through things or you're having to go through training on figuring out how do I create a purchase rec. Machine learning is things like repetitive tasks that are done where SAP has the software that will look at, for example, how you are matching your goods receipts to your goods issues, and that matching that you do at the end of every month. It watches what your people are doing, it learns over time, and then it begins to make recommendations so that GRIR matching at the end of each month becomes a much less time-consuming, much more efficient process, and you can have those accountants working on much more value-added support for your business. The key here, SAP is not slowing down. And the idea is now, rather than talking about IT running at the speed of business, we're talking about business running at the speed of the cloud. Just a little shameless promotion for the book that's out there on SAP Press. If you're interested in that, it is a good primer to the overall SAP S/4HANA Cloud solution. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Jake.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. I know we covered a lot of ground, so we wanted to end with just a couple poll questions as to whether or not you'd like to set up a one-on-one demo. All of our successful implementations have begun with a one-on-one demo where we just basically talk you through it, answer any questions, and let you see what it looks like from the inside out. We'll let people answer this real quick. All right, and let's jump to the next question. Would you like some more information on licensing? And after this, we'll jump right to the questions. We do have a couple, and just a couple minutes left, so Mike will be able to answer those. Give people a little bit more time. All right, let's get right to the questions. We do have a couple, and feel free to ask them as well as we're answering others. First one's from David. David asks, are there any capability differences with regards to manufacturing between multi and single tenant?
There are going to be. It gets down to the specifics of what you need. What I would tell you today is that discrete manufacturing is very well built out, and again, it's all pre-configured within multi-tenant S/4HANA Cloud. Process manufacturing, while there are best practice scenarios and the functionality is there, I would steer away from it right now because it's still being built out. Of course, all of that functionality is going to be available for you in private cloud, and it would be for you then to do the configuration on that. So there will be more functionality in single tenant or private cloud across almost all cases, with the exception of professional services. And multi-tenant cloud is just much more rich in that case, but this is a manufacturing group, not a professional services group.
Great, and we have another question from Monisha. Monisha asks, how much of the solution is OOTB, and can you confirm that 21 CFR Part 11 E6 are supported?
Okay, out of the box, 100% of what I showed you is out of the box. And again, the multi-tenant edition is pre-configured. So not only is the functionality there, none of what I showed you was an extension that was built or a customization. Everything I showed you fully out of the box and pre-configured. As far as CFR Part 11, I do not believe electronic signatures are supported today, and that would be something that we'd have to look into, but as to when. But I believe that's something. If that's a requirement, I would look to. We'd have to go back and work with SAP on the roadmap for when that will be available, and or look at the single tenant edition.
All right, unless we have any other questions, we will wrap up just a couple minutes early. I want to say thank you so much to Michael. Again, covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time. As I mentioned before, everybody will be receiving a fully edited copy of this. So again, if you have any other questions, Michael's information is on the screen, and feel free. He's always ready to answer any questions that you have. As you exit, you will see kind of a poll and exit interview real quick on the way out. Comments. If you have any comments on what you'd like us to cover in the future, and how you felt about the presentation, really helps us build our schedule going into Q4 in 2019. And with that, I'll wrap it up. I'll say thanks again to Michael, and to everyone else, thank you for attending. Have a great weekend.